Hello, everyone. So for this presentation, we will be talking about the different phyla, specifically Phylum Porifera and Phylum Cnidaria. So first of all, I would like to have a little review about our previous topics from before, wherein we talked about the how we classify living organisms such as animals. So for the first one, we should identify its domain. So for the new classification, they consider domain as the topmost. Pero sa older ones, ang pinaka topmost classification is kingdom. So again, sa new classification, it's the domain. So it could be eukarya or prokaryotes. So it depends upon the organism. After that, we have to identify the kingdom, the phylum, the class, an order, family, genus, and its species. So for kingdom, basically there are six identified kingdoms. So we have the eubacteria, protista, archaebacteria, fungi, plantae, and animalia. So since we are talking about zoology or basically animals, we will focus on the kingdom Animalia, where we belong also as human individuals, as well as the animals that we will be discussing. So it is basically classified into two major animals are classified into two major classifications. We have the vertebrates and invertebrates. So basically, vertebrates are those creatures with skeletal system or vertebra. However, on the other hand, we have the invertebrates, which does not have these characteristics. So, as you can see on this presentation, you have the vertebrates, which is also divided into warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals, and the invertebrates, which with jointed legs and those without legs. So, we've already discussed this part, and there you can see a few examples of animals under their specific classification. So, for Kingdom Animalia, there are actually quite a few phyla. So phyla is the plural form of phylum. So we have Phylum Porifera, Phylum Cnidaria, Phylum Mollusca, Phylum Echinodermata, Arthropoda, Annelida, Nematoda, Platyhelm Platyhelminthes, and Phylum Chordata. So Phylum Chordata, this is where the animals, most of the animals belongs. Now you can see those that has skull and spinal cord. So we have here the vertebrates. So this includes the fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, human beings, for instance. So we will on this topic we will only talk about this Phylum Porifera and Phylum Cnidaria. So we will discuss the other phyla in the future discussions. So again, when we talk about Phylum Chordata, it is made up of animals with vertebrates or a spinal column and a cranium. So cranium is the skull. It is another scientific term for the skull. So we have here the fish, for instance, lizards, reptiles, snakes, and turtles, and also mammals, which where human beings belong. So what are the phyla of invertebrates? So once again, Phylum Chordata is for vertebrates, and invertebrates are identified under these different phyla. So for Porifera, most of these are sponges. Cnidaria, these are mostly sea anemones, jellyfish. Platyhelminthes, flatworms. Nematoda, roundworms. Annelida, segmented worms. Mollusca, mollusks. Echinodermata, starfish, and arthropoda, those are arachnids and insects, and such as spiders. So as you can see, based on the different characteristics or different characteristics of animals, we are classified. So the main purpose of this is so that we will be grouped into specific groups para it would be easier to identify those groups with similar characteristics, such as, for example, um, jellyfish. So they all belong in the same phyla, which is phylum, which is Cnidaria. So again, for vertebrates, we are classified under Phylum Chordata so that it would be easier pag classify and identify. So basically, we already know the main purpose why we have this taxonomy of classification, diba? So that we could be grouped according to our characteristics or the characteristics of those animals. So for Phylum Porifera, they are the lowest multicellular animals belonging to the um, kingdom Animalia. So when we talk about multicellular, so it is composed of multiple cells, not just a single-celled organism, just like humans and other plants. The word Porifera mainly refers to the pore-bearers or pore-bearing species. Based on the embryological studies, sponges are proven as animals and are classified into separate phylum in animals. So when we talk about sponges, I think you have an idea already, pero as kanang mga ginagamit nato sa paghugas sa atong pinggan, di ba, they are sponge. So basically, it looks like that, pero most of these sponges could be found on the ocean floor or in sea. They are attached on the seabed. So it looks like a sponge, as you can see, right? And here's another example of that. SpongeBob is one of the most famous characters that is actually inspired by a creature, a sea sponge creature. So this is what SpongeBob is inspired from. Although it doesn't look like it's not shaped like SpongeBob. Poriferans have a spongy appearance and are therefore called sponges. They are attached to the substratum and do not move. They have the ability to absorb and withhold fluid. So take note that these creatures are not mobile, so they cannot move, and they're attached to the floor or to the seabed. So you might be wondering or asking yourselves now, why are they considered animals if attached sila sa into something? Well, basically there's a reason why they are called animals. Kasi nga, di ba, most of the plants are also attached on the seabed. So medyo similar sila characteristic. However, there is a specific reason why these sea sponges are considered animals and not plants. So here are some of the characteristics of Phylum Porifera. First, the phylum has the following distinguished characteristics. They are pore-bearing multicellular animals. They have no organs. Unlike animals, we have different organs like the heart, the muscle, skeleton, liver, kidneys, and so on. Pero these creatures has no organs. So basically, they just look like a sponge. And they exhibit holozoic nutrition. Their body is radially symmetrical, and they can regenerate their lost parts. So unlike humans, if we would get amputation, if our leg would be amputated, there is no way that we could grow another leg. Pero these creatures under Phylum Porifera, once na a part of them is being removed from their structure, they can regrow that or regenerate that part. So where are the sponges found? They are found in shallow water and deep seas, but are always found attached to the floor of the sea, and they can be found at a depth of more than 800 meters under the sea. What is the mode of nutrition of poriferans? So poriferans exhibit holozoic nutrition. They filter the tiny floating organic particles and planktons that they feed on, hence called filter feeders. So based on their structures, as you can see here, the food that they are getting would be trapped on that specific part. So sometimes it would go inside the holes, and then they would be absorbing those nutritions, those planktons, as their main source of food. So actually, that is also one of the reasons why these creatures are called animals, because they eat through that process. So unlike animals, unlike plants, where they most of the plants basically get their nutrition or food from sunlight through photosynthesis, these creatures, sea sponges, get their food. They absorb it from their structure or the holes in their body. So this is the reason why sponges are considered to be animals. They do not have chlorophyll, so that is one of the main. Chlorophyll is the main component wherein plants, through the process of photosynthesis, get their food or nutrition from sunlight. So they don't. Sea sponges does not have that. Hence, they are considered as animals and cannot prepare their own food. They capture different organisms for nutrition, and most of the sponges that produce sexually produce sperms and eggs. So this is why they are considered to be animals and not plants. So take note of that because that is important characteristics of Phylum Porifera under the animal kingdom. So let's move on to the next one. So you are familiar with Finding Nemo, right? So this is where clownfish um this is one of the most common habitat for clownfish. So this is actually a sea anemone. So this is where the clownfish lives. So this is not a plant. This is an animal also. So phylum Cnidaria includes animals that show radial or biradial symmetry and are diploblastic. This is they develop from two embryonic layers. Nearly all, about 99% of cnidarians are marine species, so most of them could be found in the ocean. So when we talk about radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry, take note na if we cut parts of an individual, for example, on this example, a human being, it is cut into half, mid-sagittal portion. So you would be able to observe na kung unsa tong what is found on the left side could also be found on the right side. So the legs also, we have the left and the right leg. The face, we have the left and the right portion of the face. So they are symmetry because they are the same. Sa radial symmetry, if we would divide it into planes, into multiple planes, you would still see the same structure from that side to the other side. So that is their difference. So a few examples of members belonging to Phylum Cnidaria are jellyfish, box jellyfish, and so on of these creatures. So sea anemones are the ones that I have shown you here where clownfish inhibits. So that is also an animal under Phylum Cnidaria. So these are the common names. I mean the common name for Cnidaria, and they are radially symmetrical, soft-bodied animals found in aquatic habitats. Their common names are sea anemones, jellyfish, corals, and hydras. Some other cnidarians include Portuguese men of war, sea fans, sea pens, and sea whips. So this is an example of a Portuguese man of war, an animal. It looks like a jellyfish. It has similar characteristics of a jellyfish. And this is very a common animal that should be avoided on underwater because they can sting and they can cause harm on our skin. So this one is a sea fan. I'm sorry. This is a sea pen, an example of a sea pen. So they are also attached on the seabed, and they look like sticks sprouting from the ground. So that's why they are called sea pens. And these are the sea whips. Based on the name, from the name itself, whips, they look like whips under the water. So those are a few examples of creatures under phylum Cnidaria. These are the characteristics of cnidarians. So mostly are marine entities, while few such as hydra are found in freshwater. So only few are found in freshwater, most of them are in salt water. While some are solitary, like the sea anemone, some others are colonial or just like the coral reefs, diba? They are in a group, they are in a place where there are multiple groups. Kumbaga, as you can see, if you've been to the ocean, you would see group of creatures, coral reefs na um, mura silang nag-form of colony in a specific area. Pero some, just like the sea pens, they could survive on their own. So they depict a tissue grade of organization and are dipoblastic. So it is composed of multiple tissues. Just like humans, we have different tissues like skeletal tissues, muscular tissues. Um, these creatures, Cnidarians, also have different types of tissues accordingly. And these members exhibit radial symmetry, as what we've said a while ago. However, sea anemones exhibit biradial symmetry. So the body structure of Cnidarians. Cnidarians exhibit a specific characteristic. So they have tentacles with stinging nematocides, which serve as a small harpoons which react to stimuli by giving out tiny stinging cells which can poison and hook potential prey. So that is one of their ways on how they get their food. So they would be attached to a specific animal, and then once that creature dies, they could devour it, and it would serve as their food, where they could get their nutrition from. Cnidarians do not show bones and central nervous system, rather have a nerve net. Members of this group have only two body layers. They have ectoderm and endoderm. Before, we have talked about the different creatures where it is possible for some animals to survive even without brains. So this is one of those animals. So instead of having a central nervous system, they have a substitute for that, such as the nerve net, where they could communicate from their anatomical structures. They could communicate such. So that is how they could maneuver their tentacles, and then they would release that energy or poison so that they could get their prey. So the main body cavity has one main opening, the mouth, which is engirdled by tentacles. So it's the non-mobile or sessile forms. The mouth in non-mobile or sessile forms, the mouth is pointing up, and in mobile medusa form, the mouth is pointing downward. So just take note na for some creatures na which are not able to move, their mouth is pointing upwards. Just like these ones, the sea pen and the sea whips, they are non-mobile, so their mouth is pointing upwards. While for, let's say, the Portuguese men o' war, since they are mobile, their mouth is pointing downwards. So just take note of that. And basically, that's all for the two phyla that we have discussed, Phylum Porifera and Phylum Cnidaria. Thank you.